Welcome to our Sensei Labs Enterprise Orchestration Era Meet the Maestro series, where we spend some time discussing and learning from industry leaders, maestros for their organizations, about how they are thriving in today's enterprise orchestration era. Today, I am thrilled to have with us distinguished industry visionary, Richard Forrest, lead partner, Energy and Process Industrial Global Practice from Kearney. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks, Jay. Nice to be on.
All right, let's dig right in. Today's enterprise orchestration era demands that enterprises have to effectively orchestrate their people, their process, and their technology to drive better outcomes faster. Richard, can you share some of the key challenges that you're facing in your work around aligning those people, processes, and technology to deliver on critical initiatives, and maybe also how you're working to improve that current state?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I think this is a challenge that we see both in the firm and also with clients. And if I talk about the firm for a moment, I mean, it's very clear as a consulting industry, the sort of high value add model is no more the model that is all that we need. And actually more and more, we're having to bring people, technology, data, and also alliances from outside the firm in to both be better as a firm, but also in terms of how we deliver work for clients, both from a productivity and an effectiveness point of view. So I'd say this is across the board. And, some of the challenges that we see with that is, it's a bit like anything. It's like learning to ride a bike, really. You've got to kind of practice it to do it really well. But the most important thing is it does mean bringing different capabilities together at the moment you need them. And that's where a lot of orchestration is required. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we see both for a firm and also for our clients.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. You have a unique perspective because you have both the firms that you're working with your clients who are going through transformations, and then you also have a fairly large firm yourselves inside of Kearney, which is both a laboratory for experimentation in a way. How do you transform yourselves so that you can deliver that change to your clients? And also just a large concern that you have to keep running and keep being effective in delivery of your services. How do you find that inside perspective of what you do for yourselves is able to affect and improve what you do for your clients?
Yeah, it's a bit like, physician, heal thyself sort of approach in a way. I mean, just like many of our clients, we're 1.3 billion turnover firm, we have 3,000 people, we're in multiple countries. It's not uncomplex in terms of how we have to operate and leverage that firm for the clients. So there's a little bit of taking our own medicine on that as well. So very much what we do for clients is how we look at it for ourselves as well. And indeed, we've used many of the technology platforms that we use within our client initiatives for our own initiatives. Take one of my areas, which is actually in the alliance area. Now that's an area where, again, we're leveraging capabilities from alliance partners like yourselves to do work better in that. So, and I'm sure that will continue. And it's great to be able to go to clients and talk about how we're using this technology and technologies like this ourselves, as much as it is trying to then employ it within a client.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Ongoing disruption I think has really caused organizations all over Kearney and your clients to accelerate your strategic and digital transformation initiatives and really driving the accelerated adoption of new technologies. You and I have had the chance to meet a number of times in person around the world, but we've spent far more time on Teams and Zoom's calls over the last few years than we would, I think, have before the pandemic. How would you say that you as an organization are adapting to that change and innovating how you deliver your services?
Yeah, no, I think that the last 2 years have been a real lesson for all of us in just how sometimes you have to jump in the water and start swimming to realize actually it's okay. And I think it's been a little bit like that with the ability to not travel, to work with clients, to work with colleagues that you may never have met before physically, but actually you can be very effective on. So I think it's been a lesson in that actually a lot of the technologies which are here and available today are ones that can be used at scale very effectively. And we should be probably more open-minded to those changes, I think, going forwards, and hopefully we will be, and others will be as well. So that's certainly been one of the lessons learned. I think the other lesson learned is, I've been in this business now for the last 20 years, and if I went back 20 years and I looked at the technology capability that we had then, clients were still valuing the fact that we would pull together obtuse data sets and provide insights, and that would be a lot of hard work to do that. Today, that's off the shelf. You can Google a lot of things. You can buy data sets. You can have boutiques do the data pulls for you. And so the value add of even our analysts and consultants has shifted over that time. Over the next 5 or 10 years, there's an expectation that there's going to be another explosion of technologies that will supercharge the consultants of tomorrow. So I think there's two aspects for us really, Jay. I would say one is be open and adopt the best quickly. The second is recognize that it's a real learning curve, and our consultants want to develop that skill, want to have that employed, want to be using the best tools, want to be the best they can, and we call it consulting 2.0. I'm sure that will evolve over time even further than that.
Yeah, the days of just PowerPoint and Excel are, I think, long gone. And there's a good engagement lesson, I think, in that we're in the age of the Great Resignation, and enterprises around the world are seeing people make different career decisions than they've made in the past. That model that many consulting firms have had, and professional service firms in general, of hiring new graduates and then tasking them with what is essentially really just a lot of manual effort, I think is thankfully going away, and in favor of the opportunity to learn the latest tools and technologies and deploy them at scale with clients who are doing really important transformative work. So
no, absolutely. I think our own evolution is there are many tasks that will be eaten over time by technology, quite rightly so. And we don't view that as cannibalization or a threat. We just view that as moving on. It means that we have to move how we add value on. And I think that's a great aspiration to have, is that we should all expect to be able to have greater impact as an individual, collectively in the firm as well, and let technology do the job that it's supposed to do. And I think we're seeing that more and more. And, like I say, I find it inspiring. And I know many of the teams find it inspiring to do that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a point in time in Kearney's history where there was a team responsible for slide carousels and printing the physical slides who were deeply threatened by the existence of PowerPoint. So it's just really a cycle that plays itself out over and over again.
There was a time we used to carry large suitcases with a projector in it around as well, which have gone as well, thankfully.
Right, thankfully, yes. So would you say, Richard, on that note, that your teams are currently operating at sort of a peak effectiveness from a technology and tool perspective? Do they have the right tools today and the right data that they need to perform? And where would you say Kearney is, particularly for yourselves, but I think maybe also if you can comment from your clients, in that path towards automating that low value work and getting more focus on higher value add work?
Yeah, I would say, I think it would be a false statement to say we have all the tools, we have all the data, we have, because I don't think you can ever claim that. And I think if you claim that, you probably haven't looked hard enough. So there is a little bit of, the future's here already. It's just evenly spread, as the phrase would go. And we just need to find how we advance. So certainly I think there's a continuous learning curve. And I think there's another thing as well. I would say that even with new technologies, when we bring them in, there's that people technology combination that actually we adapt and we learn how to use that over time. There's never a technology that we apply which automatically fits and just solves a problem. There is always a learning curve to go through, which is why actually we do try and choose the best early, and then try and use that and develop that and find the value in what works for our consultants as well for the client. So it's a continuous feast of opportunities, you might say, but it's definitely a learning curve for those using it.
Yeah, the rate of change is so fast that there's no way you know what the full landscape is of any given category. And it feels like any category that you felt like you had a handle on has already fragmented into 5 subcategories that are brand new and evolving. So keeping up with it is definitely a challenge. And you need you need a little bit of the sort of crossing the chasm early adoption, but you also need stability, because otherwise the rate of change of your tools is so fast that your teams can't keep up and your clients can't keep up either. From that perspective, maybe from the client side, I'm interested in the sectors that you cover particularly. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing in terms of them tech enabling their critical initiatives? So in terms of sort of what has become the minimum table stakes for them, maybe particularly in a transformation program, for example, and what would you say they are now expecting of Kearney from that same perspective? So when you go to bid on a new piece of work, what's the now minimum table stake for you to deliver that?
Yeah, so I think let me start with a little bit of, I'll start from the transformation drive that we've seen really accelerate, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years, I would say, in terms of, whereas, within a corporate, there would always be initiatives going on. There'd be a portfolio of initiatives going on, and there would be driving and, project management office across those. I think what's become apparent is, as major corporates look for more complex value opportunities, often cross-functional, sometimes outside of the businesses, bringing in digital analytics as well as the people side changes, often cultural changes associated, all of a sudden there's just a lot to do in a time frame and keep the lights on in running the business. That requires a very different response to a portfolio. So we're seeing moving from running portfolios of projects well to running integrated transformations well. And I think that shift, when we look at what we then need to bring to a client, we need to bring the expertise often across multiple areas, but we also need to bring a way of de-risking that integration and being able to manage it in a very different way. And quite frankly, the Excel, the PowerPoints, the weekly flash reports, the static sort of dynamic of what we would have seen 5 or 10 years ago is no longer fit for purpose. I would say for the majority of clients, particularly those now running much more complex integrated transformations. And I think that's the real value add of using the platform like the Conductor platform for the client. It's also a value add for the consultant, because if it's difficult for the client, it means it's difficult for us. So that technology layer works for both parties really, and is an essential part now of how we tackle those most pressing and difficult high value add transformations.
And are you seeing a shift in the expectation when you go into those? I know we've been working together with Kearney for a number of years now, and at the beginning it was really our job to educate clients that there was a different way of thinking about things. But are you now seeing a growing expectation that you're going to have a solution like this when you go in?
100%, I would say on that. I mean, particularly for blue chips, Fortune 500, which is what our main client base is, I would say that group now almost asks the question, can you show us your technology platform? There is not a, what's the approach? What are your standard toolkits? There is, what is your technology platform becomes a question. And I think I would say we get that pretty frequently now. So it's part of how we solve, it's part of what clients expect.
Right. Absolutely. So maybe let's wrap up with the last question. I think everybody is focused on thriving in this enterprise orchestration era. And as you said, transformation has just become kind of the normal state. But if you had to sort of summarize your experience, both internal transformation at Kearney and external in helping your clients, into some pieces of advice that you might give to enterprises who are now in the kind of planning stage of their own transformation initiative, what is the best North Star that could guide them through that journey?
I think there's probably 2 or 3. I mean, for me, I think if we're talking about an organization that's trying to lift a new set of value and do something more complex, then this shift from being able to run a portfolio of projects well to running an integrated transformation well, I think that's the advice is it's absolutely necessary to lower the risk of that transformation by employing the appropriate technology now. I think the second thing is, I would say, communication on such a transformation becomes really valuable, and fact-based communication and real-time communication. The sort of line reporting, weekly flash report is just too static for many of the transformations that we now deal with and clients now look to have. So my advice would be is, shift into the modern era and make this much more of a real-time, interactive and transparent, very visible transformation for all. That just benefits the whole team, from the CEO down to anyone doing a task within the transformation has that platform to work off. And I think the final thing I'd say is, transformations, as we're still in business, it's a value-driven outcome. So I think as well, being very clear on the value side, but also the other outcomes, the other measures of success within a transformation, and more those measures are both value and what we'd now class as, or put on the umbrella of ESG. I think both are relevant. And, if you think about the ESG journey is a journey which is every company will go on at some point now, because of the government, the country shifts we're getting, the financial investor shifts we're getting, and the expectations from customers and consumers. That change is happening for most, and eventually everyone will go through it. So the trick is, if you're spending $1 today on investing in something, if it can have an ESG outcome as well, it will only benefit the journey that we're all on effectively, just at different paces.
Yeah, thank you. Those are wonderful insights, and I think will be very helpful for our viewers. So thank you, Richard, for sharing that. And just as we orchestrate our teams to work better together, we can also work together to share our insights and help enterprises thrive in the rapidly evolving enterprise orchestration era. So thank you, Richard.
It's been a pleasure, Jane. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's discussion, and thank you for joining us.